Well, thank you all for coming today. This is one of the first sessions on the day. This session, we will talking about BlackBerry 10 and Adobe AIR for making application with Flash. I hope you understand some about ActionScript 3 and Adobe AIR. Before start, I will present myself. I came from Argentina. My name is Mariano Carrizo, also known as Kiwo or Kiwox. I wrote a book about Flex 4.5. I am also a BlackBerry Elite, manager for BlackBerry Developer Group of Argentina. We have a strong community there. We are working a lot with BlackBerry 10 applications, not only with Adobe AIR, also with C++ and Cascades and WebWorks. I am also the manager for iOS Developer Group in Argentina. I am Adobe Community Professional and Flex 4 Certified Expert. I really love Flash Platform and Flex, and I have my friends too love Flash. And if you have a playbook, maybe you know my application Bluebox for BlackBerry Playbook. It's the Dropbox client for QNX platform. And I am thinking now in import to BlackBerry 10, but I don't have time now to do so. So if you also still don't know where is Argentina, maybe you know this person. It's Messi. Where I am not so famous like him, but maybe someday. So, well, we start to talk about this session core team. So the main goals of this session is to start knowing some tips and tricks on Adobe Flash Platform development for mobile. I want to know how many people here are working now with Adobe AIR, not only for BlackBerry 10, so for any mobile platform. Whoa, it's a huge. It's good to know that because a lot of people are working now with Adobe AIR for mobile platforms, but a lot of these people don't know how to optimize the Flash application. We have to take care of a lot of resources management, and how to manage the contents of the application, and to take care of performance. So I will start talking about some features of Adobe AIR, and then talk about performance tips on working with Adobe AIR. So what is Adobe AIR? I think if you are working with Adobe AIR, you know. But to start as a base, Adobe AIR has a huge community working on that. A lot of developers around the world. These numbers are not from today, are from 2010. But 3.5 million developers around the world. So we have a strong community of Adobe AIR developer, ActionScript developers. Why so much people? Because it's Flash, and Flash has a very large history. Long time ago, a lot of developers start working with Flash for the web. And today, Flash is not more for the web. Today, we have a Flash as a very well platform for cross-platform developer, for mobile, for desktop, and also for TV. And this is great, because we can make an application and port to a lot of platforms. And very easy, because we don't have to make a lot of porting modifications. And also we have a lot of frameworks that could make easier for us to develop an application, to make games, to make utility applications, to make user interface. And this is great for us. Some of the core features on Adobe AIR that help us to make a transparent porting over different platforms. We have access to local file storage. We can write and read contents on the file system. And also we have, over our mobile devices, we can access to sensors. Sensors as GPS, temperature, why not? Sensors like accelerometer, gyroscope. And also we have an SQLite database. That is the power for data-driven applications. If we are working with a data-driven application, we can synchronize with database and storage a lot of data in our application and query this data. And also, if these features don't reach the needs of our application, we can now have the Adobe native extensions that is a native programming in any platform. If we are working for Windows, for Mac, for iOS, for BlackBerry 10, for Android, for every platform, we have a native extension. So we can connect directly with this platform, and we have no limits because it's the core application. So let's take a look at some examples of code. I know you want to look some code. So if you want to access the file system, you have the main two storage directories because we can access to the application directory, that is the bundle application. This is the folder where the application is installed. In each platform, we have a different folder. So we have a property under the file object that allow us to access to the folder. And if we can make an application that port resources, we can storage maybe images, videos, any content in files, and access directly to that file. And if we need to write a file, like a database, if we need to port an SQLite database and write to that database, we need to access to application storage directory. That is maybe documents folder or any hidden directory. We can access direct to this directory. So we can write to that folder. So yes, we can write any file. And especially in BlackBerry 10, we must take care because we need permissions. We need to set the permission of access shared. Access shared is because when we write a file in application storage directory, when we save any file in shared directory, this file will be shared between applications. We can access from other applications to that shared directory in a special subfolder, but it is shared. So take care if you write files there. Another feature of Adobe AIR is the access to the GPS. We don't need to, let's see, we have a special API in BlackBerry 10 to access geolocation. But in Adobe AIR, the core Adobe AIR have the ability to access to geolocation object, that is the GPS. And with this simple code, we can read the location of the user and start tracking there. We can register to update and then listen in a listener the update events. And when update, we can access to their position. And also with the camera. The camera is the same time. we can access to the camera through the Camera UI object. And this API also requires the use camera permission. With all our APIs, you can access, but you need to take the permission. When the application is installed and first run, the application will ask the user to get the permissions. So we need every time to take take care of ask if the API is available, if the Camera UI object is available. So if it's not supported, we can take a second plan and to take what happens if camera not available. Maybe you can get a fallback that opens an static image, so your application can run, but no camera. So when you use the Camera UI object, you need to register a listener that will wait for the user to take the picture. Why? Well, because the Camera UI will open the native camera UI. So the user will capture the image and then receive you on the media event complete event. And also, if the user cancels the Camera UI, you can take on error event like an error is canceled. So you can then launch the camera saying that you want an image. If not an image, you can take the video. But the video is another story because you need to read and encode that video once you receive it. In a fallback, you can do the same, but with a loader that loads that image and then receive as the same. So the next step is on media complete. You can take the event.data to access the object data of the image. You will receive there a file promise. It's a promise of a file. I don't know if the user will take you the file or not, so it's the promise. So you will load with a loader, similar to the fallback example. You will load the data. When you load the data, you can take there the image. So finally, you can add child the image to the stage. So you can show the user the image. And from that step, you can process that image, you can edit, you can apply filters, or maybe you can upload to the social, whatever you want. If you want the user to choose a picture from the camera roll, you have the camera roll object. This API is very similar to the Camera UI, but take the user to the camera roll of the device. Then you make something the same because you ask for camera roll supported. If it's not supported, you have no permissions. So you can get an instance of camera roll object, then add a corresponding listener, so select, and then browse for image. You can also browse for video, but again, the video is another step. So browse for image, take the user to the camera roll native. In each platform, you will have a specific step. So this is some of the APIs you have natively in Adobe AIR. But what happens when you work with Adobe AIR for BlackBerry 10? You have a special APIs because we have a special SDK for BlackBerry 10. So let's take a look in some APIs. So you have, when you work with Adobe AIR for BlackBerry 10, you have some features that you must care. Actually, the SDK of BlackBerry 10 is based on Adobe AIR Runtime 3.1. That is not the last. That actually we have a release of Adobe AIR 3.6 that is more advanced and with more features. But if you was in the general session, maybe you see that in future release we are waiting for an update on the Adobe AIR runtime. That's because the next step in beginning in Adobe AIR 3.2, Adobe has added the support for Stage 3D. Stage 3D is an API that allows the developer to access to OpenGL graphics, to maybe work with 3D or frameworks like Starling that allows the developer to use the GPU to draw in the screen. So currently, we don't have access to the Stage 3D API in Adobe AIR for BlackBerry 10. But maybe, I don't know, maybe in some time, we can access them and also access to new APIs of Adobe AIR. So this is one limitation, but the main feature I will say in BlackBerry 10 is this is not a cross-compiling. When you export an application built with Adobe AIR to BlackBerry 10, you are exporting an Adobe AIR file. That is a file that is executed in the device using the Adobe AIR runtime. It's a runtime, so the application runs very slow, very quick. It's a fluid application. So it's a main difference from the other platforms. If you work with some devices like iOS or Android, this is a cross-compiling because the application will compile in a native or some strange process and then work with the platform. But in BlackBerry 10, we have a runtime that is executing the application. So in the APIs for BlackBerry 10 SDK, we have a lot of features like Fuse UI components. That is the native components. I will show you a demo later. And you have a deep integration with native extensions. We have some native extension from BlackBerry that allow us to access to device features. So we can integrate deeper with the device, like payment, like push notifications, or like invoke. We can make an invoke from AIR applications. And if you work with some of that APIs, you can qualify to build for BlackBerry program. So you must try to use it. So let's take a sample demos here. If you want to make an invoke, if you worked before with Java application for BlackBerry OS, maybe you know invoke. Invoke is the call to another application, to a native application, a core application, or any other application in the system. You can make an invoke. So with simple steps like making a target, an action, and a URI, you can make an invoke, and then use invoke manager to push that invoke, and the system will call the other application. And also you can wait for a response. You can take an invoke and wait response between applications. But in the UI features, we have controls. We have the native controls. If you're working with AS3 application, only AS3, no Flex, maybe you can make use of these UI controls to simulate a native applications. You can use buttons, segmented controls, switch, list, maybe icon buttons. You have a lot of components from native UI. So you can simulate the native applications from an Adobe AIR application. This is the example, the simple example of segmented controls. Some of the controls you have are the radio buttons, the toggle button, the checkbox, and this is better when you are working for BlackBerry 10. This will help you to simulate a native application and get a better user experience in our application. So let's take a look at some example. I have okay. Well, here we have an application. I write it before to not to write here. So what happened here? We have an application that let's see here. Have an application here. I will run it. And you have an Adobe AIR application running in simulator, and I can press the buttons and screen changes. But this is a native buttons. As an AS3 application, I could build my own buttons. I can draw or import images, but with this solution, I am only making an instance of native button and then adding to the screen. So here you can see how it's built. It's only an instance of label button, then set the label, position, size, whatever you want, and then add it to the stage. You must take care because when you implement that UI components inside an application, you need to import native extensions that is included with the SDK. So if you don't import the native extensions, these components will not run. Also, the application will not run because the component requires the native extensions. And some people ask me, why? Why require a native extension if it's drawing on the screen? It's important to know when you use that components, the components are looking on the operating system to take the skin, the native skin. So why? Well, because if in the future BlackBerry 10 changes the skin or the design or maybe a rebranding, the UI component will fit to the native component, to the native skin or native colors. Maybe in the future we can change the colors of the UI. So if you use this application, you will fit in the components of native operating system from design. So it's good to make use of these components. Let's continue. Well, we will talking about frameworks. If you use frameworks in the quotidian life, you can see a lot of frameworks for Adobe AIR or Flash or as you know. We have a lot of frameworks that make the life easier because when you have a large amount of work or maybe hard work, you can take frameworks for games, for maps, for 3D. So the frameworks every time help us to build better applications in a shorter time. So the main framework we are talking now is Apache Flex. Later was Adobe. But Apache Flex is a UI framework. We can use Flex to build an AIR application with components. We use components every time to make a better UI. And also Flex has some APIs to manage data. We can connect to web service or maybe storage data model. So it's easier to build data-driven applications when we use Flex. This is an example of one of my applications. This application you can find on BB World. When we use Flex for build applications, we can now have a mobile Flex application. When we build a Flex mobile application, we can have a navigation bar on the top and a tab bar on the bottom. That helps us to control the screen changing. We will not making the management of screen, the changing on the screen. So it's easier to build a utility or a productivity application with Flex. We can have, with few steps, we can build an entire application. This application, I was take maybe 2 hours to build the entire application. It's very easier. So I will take a demo on this to show you how you can combine the Adobe AIR and the Apache Flex and also the BlackBerry 10 SDK. So let's take the first demo. BlackBerry. Yes. No, it's not. Well, it's not that application. Okay, this is the application. This is a simple Flex application with a navigation control. The navigation is adding now the top bar, the title bar, or as you know, and have 2 components. These components are Flex components, not from BBUI, from BlackBerry 10. So if I use Flex to build my application, I can make use of the Flex UI components. This is a simple component, and is using the skin of Flex Mobile. That is optimized to mobile, so it's very easy to use it. But this component is not fitting the skin of the operating system. This is the Flex skin, and if I port this application to iOS or to Android, it's the same. It will not change. So what happens if you want to add the UI components from BlackBerry 10 SDK to the Flex application? A lot of people don't know that you can combine the BlackBerry 10 SDK with the Flex. You can import the UI components and add to the Flex application. But you need to add something to run. So why? Because the BlackBerry 10 SDK is not adapted to Flex. The BlackBerry 10 SDK components only runs in AS3 application, are entire built on top of AS3. So you need to work with an AS3 application when you want to add the components to the screen. So in a Flex application, you are working inside a container, and a Flex container. So the components you will add to that container needs to be contained inside a Flex special component. So I have here an application or a view. I will change this parameter. Home. My home view. I just made a change. And let's see. And there is. Now it's a Flex application with a native button. And if I press, I get the native operating system skins mixed with a Flex application. And how is it? If we take a look, you see a component for Flex that is the sprite visual element that has an ID. An ID allows us to reference to that component. So when I need to add the component, the UI component from BlackBerry 10 SDK, I will add to that component, to the sprite. So in that component, you can make an add child. So add the child as an AS3 application, as a normal AS3 application. But this component is merged into a Flex application. So you can interact with the two kinds of components. So I will add another component. I had here another component, a toggle switch. And if I run again, you can compare to the component skin. It's different. Yes, I have now a switch, but this is now a Flex switch. This is a native switch. So I can interact my Flex application with native components. So we will continue with other features. Once you have your application, you need to take care of performance. You need to take care of resource consumptions on your application. So what is the core features you must take a look? First of all, the responsive. You need to make an application that when the user hits the icon, the application opens quickly, opens as soon as possible. So you must avoid the process of data on the beginning of application without use a preloader or maybe a loader bar. And also, when the user are playing with your application, you need to take care of frame rate to the fluid application. You need to make a fluid application that responds every time and don't leaks on the use. And after that, you must take care of memory and the bundle size. Take care of not to make an application that is 100 megas or maybe a giga. Let's take a look at some analysis on the applications. This is based on analysis of a lot of applications and what amount of memory or resources every task are consuming in the application. When you use effects or scrolling or transitions inside the application, the most portion are based on rendering. Is the rendering the hardest part of that use? And when you start the application or change the screen in the application or process some data, maybe from a web service or from a remote call, the main process are in ActionScript in the code because it's processing the startup or the data. So you must focus on this task to make a better performance. So some of the features you can optimize when you work with that. When you use image inside the application, you have two kinds of image objects. You have the bitmap image and the Spark image. This is over Flex, okay? This is talking about Flex. So the Spark image is the new component appeared in Flex 4. Flex 4.5 for mobile has a Spark image component that allows you to set an scannable component that uses bitmap image inside, but has some more features like progress, broken icon, or Chrome for that image. Broken image means that you can set an image that will appear if the image you are referencing are not found. So you can have a fallback inside the image. But the using of Spark image is hardest than using directly the bitmap image. Bitmap image is just a bitmap, just the image inside the stage. So you can add a remote loading or set a different bitmap based on the DPI of the device. Of course, in BlackBerry 10, now we have just one DPI, but in the future, maybe you can make your application port into Playbook or to other devices, so you can set a different image for different DPIs. In a simple test, building 1,000 of instance of test image, in the time of creation, validation, and render, you can see here different comparisons about loading. Of course, bitmap image is the simplest, is the better performance when you use it. And MX image is for Flex 3. On Flex 3, the set of components are called MX, and Spark is for Flex 4. And here you have a comparison between this. When you also use image inside lists or in different moments of the application, you must cache that image or queue that image. That is for better performance because the application will save it on a memory or in storage and then loads the image. The first time will load the image and the rest of times will use the cached image. So, and also it's better to use PNG image for better compression and better performance. And also in Flash, not only in Flex, in Flash, you must avoid the scaling in runtime. Maybe you know that Flash is very, very poor quality for resize the image. You can find some algorithms that resize the image in runtime, but this is not recommended because the Flash will need to process that image, and in mobile devices, this is not recommended. And when you have an image, you can use two types of visual objects. When you have to represent some composition in the screen, you can have an UI component, a graphic element, or an FXG graphic, or maybe a bitmap, just a bitmap. This is based on you need. If you need two objects to add dynamically, or if you need to move some elements inside, maybe you make the decision on when to use it. And whenever you can, you must use bitmap because it's more performance for the application. And if you need a graphics that is a vector image or you need to scale it, maybe the best way will be the FXG format. Somebody don't know the FXG format? Okay, good. The FXG has two ways to make use in the Flex application, because you can import the FXG format inside the application, inside the MXML code, or you can import as an FXG resource, and you can put inside a Flex application like a component, just the FXG file. In comparison between different formats, you can see here the same comparison of 1,000 graphics in the same screen, in the same time. And you can see that compiled FXG format is better performance. Because when you use FXG formats inside a Flex application and compile that FXG file, the compiler, the Flex compiler, will optimize that graphics to use inside the application. When you use that format, the graphics will be converted to a flash drawing object, so it is better performance when appears on the screen. And also keeps the vector, so you can resize and you have no problem with it. The UI component, of course, is the poor performance, because the UI component will redraw and also will resize and make the measure of the components. So it is the poor performance. So not only image, but you can use text. And when you need to use text inside a mobile application in Adobe AIR, you can start with rich editable text. That is a text field that allows you to edit the text and put format and put a lot of features, but it's the poorest performance. By the other side, you can have the stylable text field. That is an ActionScript component. Stylable text field is not a Flex component. It's an AS3 component, but as the same as I showed before, in the Flex application, you can add using a sprite visual element component, or maybe you can add direct to the stage. Depends on what you want in your application. Or the label component is a Flex component that you can add inside an MXML code. So you can make the decision of what of these components are the best for you in your application. When you have list of data inside your application, you have the item renderers. Item renderers is on the list. Each item have a renderer, have a component that will draw it on the screen. So when you use it, you can have a bitmap as an icon inside the item renderer. So when you need to make a thumbnail or an icon for each row, you must use a content cache object that will help you to keep the image cached on the memory. So when you swipe the list up and down, or maybe left to right, the image will be cached. So the next time the row needs to be drawn, this row will use the cached content, so it's better performant. If you need to load the thumbnail from the internet or from the memory in the storage, you avoid to read the storage or call the internet to browse for image every time. So the content cache is an Adobe AIR API that helps you to keep the cache. This is a simple example of a list for an item renderer for a list, and have a label and have a bitmap image. So you can combine these techniques to optimize the resource and the performance of your application. So to make a resume, we can catch external content. We need to take care of text components. In a list, when you use text and image, you can use content catch and use text components like style label text field is the best recommended. You need to avoid use filters and shadows. Filters and shadows are not recommended in any mobile platform for Flash because it needs to redraw and calculate the shadow and apply the filter, and it's a harder work. So if you need to use a simple list, a simple label and thumbnail, you can use the two components that are built in Flex for mobile. You can use an item render that is a row that includes an icon with content catch and is all built. And the label item render is just a list with the text, just only that. So you don't need to make an extension and extend the class and redraw and layout. So if you need to make a row more complex row, you need to extend the sum of two or maybe the item renderer class, and then manage the layout of your components, the adding of other components, and then manage how this row will be drawn in the stage. So I think this is all. If you have any question that you want to know.
Your performance test, did you ever do that against the BlackBerry SDK? So UI components and so on, images. How was the performance compared to the BlackBerry
to manage image and the performance when you put an image inside the application?
The metrics that you did, like 100 iterations.
It's something similar, but in BlackBerry 10 you have a better performance when you run an AIR application because you're running inside a native Adobe AIR runtime, so the application runs very fast.
How to update item render with some new data?
How to? I don't understand.
Update the item render. If we have complex item render and we have, I don't know, two fields, two labels, which we want to update some text or something, how to
yes. The question is how to update an item renderer when we have a list and inside we have a component, a text field component, any component, and to update the component. You can keep a reference, or maybe you can access to the specific row in the list and can access to each component inside that row.
Okay, but how to redraw?
To redraw, when this is apart to the list because when you swipe the rows in the list will make reuse of each row. When a row goes up, the list will cut the first row and put again on the bottom.
I can show you later.
Okay, no problem. But the list component will update automatically the row when you swipe, when you move. Yeah?
What are the extension to the new, let's say, BlackBerry 10 concepts like Remember Me, the hub? What is available for the AIR developers?
The new
Yes, like that you put messages to the hub of the BlackBerry 10 user interface.
Which API to put message on the hub?
Yes.
By the moment, we don't have,
The notification.
as I know, I don't know if currently we have an API to put message.
No, you do, the notification API. Well, the notification,
The notification, yes, yes, notification, yes, yes. I think in the near future we will have an update on APIs. Also, is announced on the roadmap. So I recommend all of you that take a look in frequent time. Take a look at the roadmap because BlackBerry is announcing there which APIs and which upgrades will have the SDK.
How to make URL invoke our application?
Ebook?
Invoke.
Invoke. For your application, if you want to your application to be called, you have an invoke. The invoke API have all the methods and the objects that you can use to.
Okay. I want when someone enter in browser or in BBM my address, so you can
Register an URL or URI for your application.
It's automatically in BB10.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
it's no different than any other application. In the XML, you register what you want to do, open view, so on.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with there.
Okay.
It's the same for everybody.
Of course, you cannot define the URLs that has been defined for other applications. You cannot define the APP or Facebook or Twitter because that has been registered when you register for your application.
You showed some examples of integrating the BB10 native buttons, and I was just thinking, how does it work with the portability of the whole like Flash app? So if I put it in the BB10 and then I would like to make it to the other, smartphone vendors or manufacturers I don't want to mention, what's going to happen? Is this like they have it also built in, so I can use their own native buttons, or just for the BlackBerry 10?
Yes, that's the goal because. When you integrate inside your application the core UI components from BlackBerry 10, you cannot port that components to other platforms. If you are building an application that is only for BlackBerry 10, you can use it free with that problem. But if your application will be ported to another platform, a Stage, desktop, or any other mobile, you can't, or maybe you must need to make a fallback that when the component is not present, you will use the Flex component or your own components. But I think if you are working in an application that will be ported to other platforms, maybe it's better to use your own components.
I think this is somewhat of a follow-up to what the gentleman asked earlier, but the share features to allow the easy sharing and make it a BBM, build for BBM app, will those become available in AIR anytime soon?
The share API?
Yeah.
Well, BlackBerry 10 has the share API. For AS3, it's available, the API for sharing. I didn't test for share to BBM, but BlackBerry 10 has the core share menu. So if you have BBM integrated, you will send the message to share, and the user will select BBM as a sharing. So maybe you can access now.
Okay.
If I can add to that real quick. You can invocate. You can invocate with BBM basic stuff. There's a person on the forum
who's actually doing a BBM A&E. He's about a third of the way through. So he's kind of looking for people to help test the BBM A&E, and the BBM A&E will do everything the core BBM API can do. So he was saying that he's pretty much done. I've looked at the code. It looks pretty good. So probably within a month or so, we'll have core BBM functionality.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
The notification manager for the hub, yes, you can use it. You just have to integrate with the push notifications, and the bug handler is available on the API definition in the web page. You can see that. Yes, it's really easy to push notifications.
Yeah. Any other? Well, just finish. Okay. See you later.